Hey, Laura J. here today with an important message about standing today. I know that within the legal fiction, we have been trained to believe that it is all about status and who has the highest status. But within the Sacred Sojourn of Now, which is the book that took 5 years for me to write in a month last year, what I learned is that within the sacred sojourn of the soul, the hero's journey from a soulful perspective that took me 2.5 years to put together before then going through the experience of having my own identity destroyed when I made a fateful call that ultimately exposed the fraud that all are giving the nod to, yet all is actually not true. For not everyone is giving the nod to the fraud that is at play. It is simply the way that we have been taught to believe, such as status being more important than standing. But what is the difference? Right now, I am sitting. However, if I had an important matter before the courts, I would need to have standing in order to speak into it. I am sitting because there is no matter before the courts except for the ones that I purport to need to be addressed, which I am doing privately and not speaking about. For if we expose our plans to the enemy, then ultimately we get locked up for terrorism. And that is because there is a cartel that is operating legally, and it's organized by the governmental bodies that are governing the mind, which is why governmental is the conjoining of two words, making one compound word that ultimately we have heard so many times we've become familiar with it. And familiarity is what breeds trust. Did you know your person is actually, by definition, a trust? Because it is the title with a measurement compounded to make a compound word of the person that we have come to believe ourselves to be. That is how our substance is actually conformed into the forms that we then believe ourselves to be. The identity that brings an entity into the ID we use to say the entity is part of me. Identity. See it? Now you can actually see it next time with a new awareness to find why that word particularly is being used instead of what it means to be real, such as I, who was born a woman and claim the right to remain so, lest I be made not the main character. Remain, not main character. My character could be discredited if I allowed my sanity or sexuality to be brought into question within the public domain. Do you see how claims that defame someone's name using sanity or sexuality are the way this game is being played, putting us into probate, such as what happens when someone is deceased and no longer able to speak for themselves, so their last will and testament then becomes what is put into probate until the man or woman acting as judge is able to then direct the estate, which is the energetic statement that is connected to what we must wait to use as the beneficiaries, that being a title. So I mean to say the men and women who can benefit if we are in the claims within the will that our free will of the man or woman who was living and then was deceased is then put into probate as the bait that sinks us, hook, line, and sinker. You see, I will not be the she who got sunk. Sinker? Okay, so probate makes us wait because then we are brought into a fate that does not need to be ours if we know how to discern status from standing. So I go back to what I originally started with and say that a status is how within the valley of transformation, within the sacred sojourn of the soul, we are then knighted by a man or woman wearing a suit of a status, title, or personage that changes who they were before they were given that status. So then the one that is wearing or using a status or suit is then able to make us believe ourselves to be other than we were before we got the boot from what we were as the original into something which means from or away from that original status. I play with the status of aboriginal, not in a disrespectful way intentionally, but it is to see that we who have come to believe ourselves not native to the lands we were born on for the sake of those who are given that status, though no longer can be for native, is how we actually can claim rights, which gives us standing. So statuses are endowed with benefits, privileges, and also liabilities, duties, and obligations that are imposed onto us who are then posing. For I'm posing, imposed, I posed, I imposed, imposed. I'm breaking the word down and I'm saying it a few times because sometimes I go too quick. And what we need is to let the wick actually get wet within the candle's wax so that we can relax and see. Information moves at the speed of light. I go pretty quick too. I am quite light, for I have learned to use the light within me to burn the calories that otherwise would earn more weight. WEIGHT in this world that make us wait, WAIT longer. For the manifestations, man infestation, we are, as the gods incarnate, here to be the ones who actually claim the rights our forefathers preserved for us. Standing is where we have claim in a matter. As a woman, in my private capacity with all common law rights reserved at all times, I was born native to the lands known as Canada, in Ontario, London specifically. So that would be the coordinates my soul came to this planetation to. Planetation Earth, being heart in a different order, same letters, different spelling, for the spells that we cast will last as long as it takes for us to break the not seeing. Agenda at play. Agenda connecting to genders, also connecting to genres. For it is first person, me, I, to you, second person, to them, it, or thing, being third person. My person is third person. I, the woman, am first person when I speak of myself, or when I speak of you, it is the second person I speak of, for I am in view first, then you are second, for if I were to have you in my view, you would be the second one I would see after me, not because I need to be first and you second, but because if you reversed it, I would be second and you would be first. The thing would be third. A status is a thing. It is not real until we give it validity. Standing in a matter is where we actually have something to stand on. That is why within the legal fiction, we have to take the stand, because men and women who have been knighted to be other than what they actually are then speaking when they have no standing in the matter, for they are only statusing and posing and pretending to be able to have any relation to a matter that they've been entrusted with. The person being the trust that is the thing in question. These nuances I say very quickly because ultimately information moves at the light. Information moves at the speed of light. And we will fight one another until we see that we are the dots that needed to be put into formation. for that is what information allows us to do when we connect the dots through the interconnectedness we came here to have with one another, lest the internet disconnect our interconnectedness in the real world. There's a whole lot more to all of this, but my hope is that you can see the wordplay that we are being played by and with, and to also say the men and women acting in the professional positions may not be aware of the nuances of what I just shared. So whether you are a legal professional, a professional within law enforcement, or any other kind of corporate professional who discredits, discounts, or questions that which I have just shared, I would encourage you to leave a comment down below to contest my claims, which is what I do when I put forward my belief systems, my BS. You can take it, you can leave it, you can work with it, you can figure out what it means to you and for you, and then what you're going to do with it. But ultimately, if you come after me wearing a suit, I'm going to strip you naked and say, no, it is the man or woman wearing that suit that is causing me harm. For that is the eye that I will see, that I will put on the notice, that I put the man or woman making false claims or allegations against me to defame my name. They will be the ones that will pay personally, because that is where we step out of liability, the ability to lie, into responsibility, which is where we actually remind one another to stop reacting, acting again the same as we've always done before, and respond instead. Within the active choice point theory, I share in Fully Committed, the book that took 5 years for me to write in a month and publish last year. It has two circles overlapping that have a reactive pattern and a creative pattern. And we can intentionally shift from doing what we've always done to get more of what we've always got, to actually breathe ourselves back present, to move through and feel through the emotions that arise, to notify us we have ions left in a not now moment that are coming back quick, which is what light and information happens, and we are the light. That is why we say namaste. The light in me honors the light in you. So, what does this message mean to you and for you? If you wish to challenge what I say, I will not be offended. I will only take offense if you make claims about my character and question my sanity, which I will stand and fend off anyone who comes to cause me harm, loss, or partake in fraud, because it is not okay, and I will not give you the nod to do so without having to defend your territory and position, lest it be an imposition onto myself, not just my id, my ID. Ego, id, and superego. Freud's work, I'm not so well versed, but it was when I put in the ID to see how the identity and identify words vernacularly actually played into that which we have been bred to believe to be professional and of a highest standing, when status that implies standing is not the same. And anyone that says what I claim is not true, you must have evidence to support your claims, for I believe that I have shared enough to say what may appear to be true is not truth in a fictitious reality where we have been connecting based on woundology, victimhood, and being on the defensive instead of not just the offensive, but in presence, which is where our power truly is. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And what we see with the tyranny is that it would not be good for any of us who choose to be real, for it would require us to conform our substance to fit forms. I got sectioned under a Form 1 first, 3 days involuntary hold. It was supposed to be voluntary, but it wasn't my experience, and then shifted into a 2-week involuntary form under a Form 3. No, that was an experience I declare I will not go into with the clarity I gained from doing so before the pandemic, that was written by the hands of men and women who will pay with their life and the livelihoods that they have been paid in order to partake in the fraud to benefit from personally, where the person is an ally until the status is stripped away and the identity left to the man or woman who no longer is able to identify as what they were when they sold out their fellow men, women, and the land, the planet that we are all inhabiting here on Planet T. Identity is huge within all of this, and we must see that those who have been playing by the rules of a corrupted pirate ship, they have no standing in matters when we actually make claims in lawful notices, we take names, and then we actually stand on the claims we made in those notices sent by paperwork via the postal service. Email also is an electronic version of the mail, which has receipts and therefore cannot be beat by saying we did not partake the way that we needed to. We stand on those claims made in lawful notices, and we take the names, for then it is the men and women acting in those positions selling out the people that pay. We all pay for the life sentences or death sentences that are ascribed to our person will ultimately be what we live out unless we choose to be real as men and women. I am the woman commonly known as Laura J. of the family Hamilton, which is my cognomen, which is the Roman or legal last name that would lay claim to me who is real with that which was a fiction, that all of my ancestors, so far back to the first Roman soldier passing through town who impregnated one of my foremothers, it's applied to all of them until I woke up, realized the truth, and now know how to stand and give it the boot to say, no disrespect to my clan, for I love them all, even though they do not understand me, nor do I need them to stand under me. I simply wish for them to be free, to be themselves fully, while allowing me to do the same without needing to conform to rules that are not good for our health. So, this is my truth. You're welcome to yours too. And all of it is simply to say, my desire is to give birth to a real realm, which is where the real magic comes into the frame. You are a magi, my friend, which is how you actually move the ion image to the end and let the E become the energy we give to that magi we claim the right to be. We are magic people. We're in process of remembering that truth. May you remember, be a member again to your own power, which is always in the present now. Thank you. Laura J. Namago for today.